Welcome everybody to Colorado Cowboy Church. Beautiful Sunday morning for sure. All righty.
The devil is a wrestler, and many are his men. Ride the plains and valleys, branded souls with death and sin. You're a Christian cowboy, ransaddle of God's word. Save a soul that's hidden, for the devil's herd swinging. To the sound, Christian cowboys are riding hard. Search the canyon of sin for the soul of men, bring in the spirit for the Lord. What outfit do you ride for? Are you the devil's man? Or is the Lord your foreman, the rugged cross and the brand? Hell your destination, or heaven your reward. Working for the devil, you're working for the Lord. Swinging to the sound, Christian cowboys are riding hard. Search canyon of sin for the soul of men, breaking the straight for the Lord. And when the roundup's over, payday rolls around, all the straight is blended, all the lost are found. Check the range up yonder and valleys green wild. Never make a cowboy unless you up and ride, swinging to the cattle Christian cowboys are riding hard. Search the canyon of sin for the soul of men, breaking the straight for the Lord, breaking the straight for the Lord, breaking the straight for the Lord. Bring 'em in, cowboy.
Welcome everybody to Colorado Cowboy Church. Very beautiful Sunday morning.
Campfire, coffee, tin cup in my hand. Shoulder warm, the fingers when it's cold. Playing no guitar, friend on the sand. So smooth the rest in my soul. Sleeping the moon high, And I thank God with me, never been ours. He made wide, open faces from the start. He made grass, trees, mountains, horse to be a friend. Need on cowboys home again. Need on cowboys home again.
I hear people talking bad about the way life was living. Talking on the war to fight, talking about the way things ought to be. No wonder what inside and standing up for things they believe in. But when you're running down my country, man, you're walking on the right side of me. Yeah, you're walking on the right side of me. Running down the way of life, the right man that brought me out the gate. If you don't love it, leave it. Let the song that I'm singing be a warning. When you're running down my country, man, you're walking on the right side of me. I read about some squirty guy who claims he do it for living fire. And wondering just how long the rest will cost. Count on being free. They love our milk and honey, but they preach about great living. When you're running down my country hall, you're walking on the right side of me. You're walking on the right side of me. If you don't love it, leave it. Let the song that I'm singing be a warning. If you're running down my country, man, you're walking on the right side of me. Yeah, you're walking on the right side of me. Running down the way of life, like a boy walking by the key. If you don't love it, leave it. Let the song that I'm singing be a warning. You're running down my country, man, you're walking on the right side of me. Well, you're walking on the country, man, you're walking on the right side of me. Yeah, I'd like to reiterate what Mark was talking about. I've been doing this about 10 years now. Isn't that right, Jerry? I mean, you've been doing these things. And that's probably one of the greatest things we get to do is go out there and spread the word on the back of a flatbed trailer. And last year is what was really cool was during the Christmas deals that we were getting everything set up. We had people dancing in the street before the parade even started. And that's super cool. That really is. We may not be able to feed 50,000 people, but we can sure feed them spiritually. And that's what they're going to be doing. So they're going to be on the back of that trailer, feeding 50,000 people some Jesus. So, and that's what's so. Oh, I just got goose pimples. Oh, that's cool. That's so cool to get to do this. Yeah, that's the perks of being a musician. That really is. All right, we're going to do Blessed Assurance. That's something that we haven't done in a long time. So if y'all folks know this song, y'all help us out with it. Blessed assurance, Jesus is mine. Oh, what a fortune, glory divine, heir of salvation, purchase of God, Lord of the Spirit, washed in His blood. This is my story. song, praising my Savior all the day long. This is my story, this is my song, praising my Savior all the day long. The perfect submission, perfect delight, visions of rapture, first on fire, angels descending, bring from above, echoes of mercy, whispers of love. This is my story, this is my song, praising my Savior all the day long. Oh, this is my story, this is my song, praising my Savior all the day long, praising my Savior all the day long. Thank you. We're going to let Dave over here take another one. I picked out some the other day. I got to come down here. If y'all guys missed last week, we had a great roundup. I got to hang out with Mr. Justin Todd Harrod. I love that guy. He's so great. And he's done some killer remakes. Not remakes, but some of the old gospel ones and all that. And I had to get his CD because, I mean, I love the guy and I like supporting him. He's just a good friend. And he did a great version of this Wayfaring Stranger, but I like the way Dave does it. So we're gonna throw out some Wayfaring Stranger.
I'm a poor wayfaring stranger, traveling through this world of woe. Yet there's no sickness or danger in this right world. Through it I go. I'm going there to see my Father. I'm going there, no more to roam. I'm gonna go, ring over Jordan. I'm only go, wing over home. I know dark clouds will gather round me. I know my way is rough and steep, yet beauteous field lies just before me, where God's redeemed their liberty. I
y'all remember where Dustin is? He went up to Houston. The band he plays in is doing a benefit for the kids down in Santa Fe. So, yeah, so just keep him in our prayers on their trip back. So, some of the guys in the band couldn't go down there, so my brother is going from Dallas to Houston to help with that. So, I'm proud of the kid. He had his first solo gig not too long ago and had the house packed. He did. He packed the house. He sure did, man. That's just, the Lord's blessed him and has blessed me pretty good, so I can't complain. But yeah, let's keep Dustin in our prayers on safe trips back, because I wouldn't want to go to Houston right now. I mean, it's hot enough here. So, I mean, I don't know about y'all. But all right, this here song here is based on an old Ray Price tune. Was the way, but that was yesterday. Till I found this cowboy church of mine. If it wasn't for my friends who helped me come on in, I didn't know I'm done with this life of mine. Now love is how I feel for my Savior that's real. And don't you know that I am heaven bound? Well, I can't believe it's true. He's made my life brand new. And now I know someday I'll wear a crown. Tell him, Mark. Was the way, but that was yesterday. Now happy is my heart you'd have to see. Now when I see a friend, I say hurry, come on in. 'Cause the cowboy church is the place you ought to be. Now lost how I feel for the love. I am heaven bound. Now I can't believe it's true. I've made my life brand new. And now someday I know I'll wear a crown. Joe, I know that I am heaven bound. Well, I can't believe it's true. He's made my life brand new. And now I know someday I'll wear a crown. And I know that someday I'll wear a crown. Oh, I'll wear a crown. Thank y'all very much. All right, now Gary, here we go.
I want to thank the band again. They always do such a great job. Well, as I said, Tad's on vacation, and he finally got to the bottom of the batting order, so he called me. I'm going to start out today in Ephesians 6:10. This is familiar, I think, for everybody about the armor of God. Ephesians 6:10. Finally, be strong in the Lord and in the strength of his might. Put on the full armor of God so that you will be able to stand firm against the schemes of the devil. For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the powers, against the world's forces of this darkness, against the spiritual forces of wickedness in the heavenly places. Therefore, take up the full armor of God so that you'll be able to resist in the evil day, and having done everything, to stand firm. Stand firm, therefore, having girded your loins with truth, having put on the breastplate of righteousness, and having shod your feet with the preparation of the gospel of peace. In addition to all, take up the shield of faith, with which you will be able to extinguish all the flaming arrows of the evil one. Take the helmet of salvation and the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of God. Now, I'm starting with those verses, but that's really not what I'm preaching about. My question for you today is, God's given us this armor, a uniform, if you will. My question to you is, what are you hanging that armor on? Are you ready to go out and be a warrior for Christ? Armor is for a warrior. It's not for passive use. I've been, as all of us have, go to football games, stuff like that. I played football when I was a kid. And a few years ago, I went to the Cowboys game. We're way up in the nosebleed section. You know, see down on top of the Jumbotron there. Look at all the dust on it. It's far away. You had to watch it instead of watching the players on the field. But next to us was a family. They were playing the Falcons. Family that was rooting for the Falcons. They all had their jerseys and everything. Every time the Falcons did good, the dad stood up, doing this to all the crowd. You know, you wanted to just kick him and see how far down he would bounce. He was just being a jerk about the whole deal. But as I was preparing this message, that came to my mind, because here's this guy, big old guy, a lot worse shape than I'm in, and has his jersey and stuff, and acting like he's actually done something. You know, we can all put on that jersey. We can go to the store, buy us a jersey. We can buy a whole uniform and put it on. But does that make us ready to actually play in a game? You know, it's there. Those uniforms are available for anybody who wants them. You just got to pay the price. Just like Christ gave us salvation there for anybody who wants it. Very small price for us to pay, just belief in what he did for us. But you know, we've got to, as Christians, we need to make sure that if we've got that uniform on, are we ready to really get in and do what we need to do? Tammy forgot her sippy cup, so we're Another story that came to mind as I was thinking about this was a few years ago at our junior rodeo here. There was a team came in, and they were a bunch of 18-year-old boys. You know, probably they just barely made the age limit. They had proved they were 18 like on January 1st or whatever it was of that year. These kids show up, I mean, beards, everything, all grown up, haired over. I saw them coming up, and oh my gosh, these guys aren't even going to have any competition at all. They looked really good until they had to actually get in the arena. They couldn't rope, they could barely ride, and they did get one caught. They couldn't mug it, they didn't know how. It was just pathetic. And here you have these 13-year-old kids out there, girls, out throwing cows and everything, showing them how it's done. You know, I think they probably came in last place. They sure did look good. And you would have looked at them and thought, man, those were cowboys. No, they weren't. Once again, when people look at you, say, that's a Christian. Do your actions, can your actions back up what you're putting out there?
Talk about it,
And talking about football a little more, when I was in high school, I think everybody that played football in high school or any team, there was always usually one guy that, man, he looked good, athletic looking, everything else. When he got down to it, he couldn't play football to save his life. Wouldn't hit, couldn't run, whatever, lazy. Those are the ones the coaches would always say, man, you know, he pads up nice. And that was all the only compliment you had for him. There just wasn't any, but they were useless when it came to actually playing a game of football. So, you know, as I'm talking about this, and we just need to make sure that when we put on that armor of God, you know, God's given us, that's the greatest uniform you can put on. It gives us protection, it gives us strength, but it is the uniform of a warrior. We've got to make sure that when we put that on, we're prepared to take that and go out and do the work that God has meant us to do. Another thought that came to me, this is kind of going all over the place here, but it all comes down to the same point. As most of you know, I'm an artist, and I've been doing a lot of sculpture lately. And in doing sculpture, you're working with clay. And all of us, I know as kids, played with Play-Doh or something. How frustrating is it to like roll that clay out and you want it to stand up, and you put it out there and it just tumps over. In order to make it work, you have to put in what's called an armature. And that's just a play on words that came to me because, you know, we're talking about the armor of God, but in order to get ready to wear that armor, you need to have the armature of God inside of you. Armature is a framework like a skeleton. The best way I think if you're doing people, be like a skeleton that you build in order to put that clay on to be able to perform the action you need to, have your character perform the action it needs to. Depending on doing a sculpture, if you're doing something that has a lot of action in it, the armature has to be much more extensive. I've done a sculpture of a guy, cowboy laying down on his saddle, hands behind his head, legs crossed. No armature needed because there was no action represented there. Then I've got one sculpture I did of a bucking horse. It's a big wreck going on. The guy's roped a pig, and it's gone around, gotten the rope under his tail, and horse is blowing up. All this, that took a very, very extensive armature because there was extensive action being shown there. So when we're, preparing to put on that armor, we need to make sure that we do the groundwork first. Make sure that we have built up ourselves inside with what we need to be ready to take action. It's easy, we become a Christian, and a lot of people become a Christian and they never do anything else besides come to church and sit in their chair. That's the extent of what they do as a Christian. That requires no armature inside you. You don't have to worry, you believe, but studying the Bible, doing things, doing works for others, things like that are not necessary for you to stay at that level of Christianity. See if I can remember where I'm going here now. As armature is built, they use wire, and for the bigger things, you use pipe in it. The more you're planning on doing, or the more God tells you to do, the heavier duty that framework has got to be. It says in the Bible, build on the rock. And I've done sculptures before where I got lazy, didn't build a good armature, and it was a struggle to make it ever work. If God had set you with a task to do, and you've got that firm foundation, armature in place, it's going to be a whole lot easier to do whatever He asks of you. Now, after we get that armature built, then it's time to flesh it out. I take it, of course, use clay, build it up, build muscle, build whatever it needs to be, skin, all the features, everything like that that goes on there in order to make it look like what it's supposed to make it perform the function that I have in my mind. God does the same thing with us. If you look at John 1:1, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. Then let's go over to, let's see what it is, John 6:56. This is Jesus speaking. Truly, truly, I say to you, unless you eat the flesh of the Son of Man and drink his blood, you have no life in yourselves. He who eats my flesh and drinks my blood has eternal life. I will raise him up on the last day. For my flesh is true food, and my blood is true drink. He who eats my flesh and drinks my blood abides in me, and I in him. When we are building muscle, back to playing football, spend a lot of time working out, looking at your diet. You know, you've got to have meat, you've got to have the right vitamins, all that stuff, in order to build up the muscle that you need. As a Christian, Jesus is the food that we need. Amen. It says, you know, in the beginning was the Word. Jesus was the Word. He was the Word in flesh. And then we, when we accept him, take that flesh into our bodies to build ourselves up as useful, active believers for God. Okay, we've got our skeleton built, we've got it fleshed out, we've got some muscle. Now we have to put it to work. We've gone through the practices, we've done everything else, it's time to play the game. James 2:14. What use is it, my brethren, if someone says he has faith but he has no works? Can that faith save him? If a brother or sister is without clothing and in need of daily food, and one of you says to them, go in peace and be warmed and filled, and yet you do not give them what is necessary for their body, what use is that? Even so, faith, if it has no works, is dead being by itself. God tells us all the way through, we've got to be ready to put that faith into action. Works by themselves don't get us there, but once we believe in Jesus, we have got to put that faith into action. That's why we're here. That's why he offered us salvation, so that our faith in action can bring other people to him. You know, I've stood up here before and harped on how many jobs there are to do just in this church. How much there is, how many opportunities. And it's not getting up here and talking. This is, in my way of looking, it's important, but it's not near as important as the nuts and bolts of keeping the church running. The people that come in and clean this church voluntarily are doing as great a service for the Lord and for our church as Tad does every Sunday. Because they're putting on a good face for the church, a good face for Christ. So, you know, we need to look for those opportunities. And you may say, well, there's not much I can do. Okay, I'll do it if all I have to do is empty the trash, that's fine. And that's great. Please do it. But don't let it stop there. You know, as we do one job, and you'll begin to grow, and you'll see other jobs. You know what? I could probably do that. And the next thing you know, you're up here talking, which I myself, 15 years ago, if you'd told me I'd be preaching, I'd say, there is absolutely no way. I'm not about to get up there. I'll work behind the scenes. I'm not about to get up there and do that. But God does that for us. He gives us the opportunities, and he gives us the confidence to get there. There's that old saying that, I was thinking about this too, God doesn't call the equipped, he equips the called. Well, that's true to an extent. He does call the equipped. He calls you with the talents that you have to get out and use them for him. We're equipped to tell you, Dale plays a mean guitar. God called him to use that for his service. He's not going to call me and say, okay, by next year you're going to be playing lead guitar in band. You know, that ain't happening. He ain't equipping me that way. But he will use our talents that we have, and as we start working for him, he'll bring out other talents that we never knew we had. We all have things we can do for Christ right now, and you'll be surprised once you start working and putting that faith in action, how many more talents you'll have that come out. How many things you can do that you never in your wildest dreams would have thought you could do. Man, I'm going to let y'all come on up. They're asking me how long our friends from Waxahachie are asking, well, y'all get out at 10:30, 10:45? It may be 10:15, I don't know. But pretty much guarantee you'll get a seat at the restaurant. And one other point on that, as we start working, we'll start seeing opportunities. People talk about, well, the Lord's opening doors for me. But the Lord's not opening doors. I'm not seeing doors open that I need to see open. My question is, where are you looking for those doors? If you're sitting in here in a chair in this church and that's all you're doing, there's not going to be a lot of doors you're going to see come open. You get out there working for him, though, you're going to go past a whole bunch of doors. And some of them are going to come open for you, and it's going to lead you to whole new opportunities and ways to work for Jesus. So once again, my question for you. God gave us this fantastic armor, most beautiful uniform ever put together. What are you hanging on? Let's go ahead and go to the Lord. Lord, I come to you today and just thank you for all you do for us. Lord, I just ask that each person here would look for those opportunities to serve you, Lord. They're there, they're everywhere. Just ask that you give us each the confidence, the peace, and faith to step out and do what we need to do for you. I lift up Tad and his family as they're traveling. Just ask that you give them a fun, restful week. He comes back recharged and ready to go again. I lift up this church. Just thank you for all that it means to each one of us here. Just ask that you would bless us. We ask these things in your name. Amen.